Coming up today on the Locked On Hornets podcast, we have an injury update on Nick Richards. It's the Hornets, so that doesn't mean it's good. We'll also go through some Charles Lee critiques. Are they warranted? All today on Locked On Hornets.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free. We're available anywhere you get your podcast, and that does include YouTube. We got a full house today. Danny Tanner. I'm sorry, no, wrong full house. David Walker joining us here on Twitter at David B. Walker. Yeah, Danny Tanner.
That means you're Joey. You're definitely
does
Joey.
Does it mean I'm Joey? Who's Joey?
You're
definitely Joey.
I do the good Mitch impression, you know.
Give me a good old cut it out.
I don't. Okay.
Yeah, cut it out.
Give me a cut it out here. Cut it out with the injuries,
cut
Hornets.
It out.
Please. That should fix all of our problems. I'm Walker Mail. I'm Jesse Stamos, right? Jesse Stamos.
Well, no, he was Snuffleupagus.
That's it. Yeah, I'm Snuffleupagus, Walker Mail. You can find me on Twitter at Walker Mail. Also listen to me on WFNZ every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. We're joking around. We're having a good time the morning after the election. Everything's fine. We're fine. Everything's fine. Nick Richards injury update. We'll lead off with the bad news here, of course, because, yes, it's not good. The Hornets center, Nick Richards, the backup center, he'll be sidelined indefinitely due to a fractured rib. Richards went down early after injuring his right shoulder in that 124-109 loss to the Celtics Friday night. An MRI on Tuesday then revealed a fracture in his first rib underneath his right clavicle. That's what the team announced after the MRI. He'll be evaluated every other week. Starting in 2 weeks, it's unclear how long he'll be out.
Won't we all? Yeah.
Lots of reevaluation. We're doing the reevaluation thing with Mark Williams. Haven't seen him yet, so it doesn't seem to be a lack of clarity. Or excuse me, there is a lack of clarity here with Richards, just as there is with Mark Williams. But as soon as we got this update, David, you were in the LOH group chat, and you were saying cartilage, rib, not good. You have some experience with this injury.
Actually got a rib cartilage injury playing basketball, guys. That's right. So several years ago. But these things do not feel good. It's hard to sleep. It's hard to do much of anything. Deep breaths. Certainly running around and taking contact in that area does not feel good. So, yeah, I wasn't surprised when we heard the diagnosis and the length of the diagnosis check-in. I mean, this is going to be a significant injury. Obviously, for the Hornets, you know, they don't have any centers left. So you guys talked about it yesterday. This is a huge blow because Nick was doing well. He was pretty much doing his job. I mean, more than you could ask of him, really, or more than you could expect of him, or at least I did. I mean,
no, I think what you got from him was it was better than preseason, right? If he would have continued what he did in preseason, that would have been a worry, but he didn't. Honestly, kudos to Nick Richards. Reasonably, you were getting as much as you could have expected. I totally agree.
And the question, I guess, is now what? You know, and I think the answer to that is most likely steady as she goes, and they're going to do their best to, you know, have a rotation that includes Taj Gibson probably more than they wanted it to include him, and it's going to include Moussa Diabate playing small ball center. It's going to involve Grant Williams playing small ball center. It's for all the folks that wanted to see Tijon Salon, you got your wish. You're going to see more of him because he's going to have to fill in some of the forward duties that are going to be given up by Grant Williams minutes at center and Diabate minutes at center. Maybe they go and find, you know, someone that's a little bit taller and stronger, but there's just not much on the market, and they're not going to spend a lot of money or anything to go after and get like a legitimate center option, because the franchise was already coming into this season thinking about it as an evaluation season, not a playoff season, as you know, they've got this lottery protected pick. So, this was always going to be on the fence, and I don't see them changing that at all. You know what I'm saying?
Going after, yeah, right. Especially, well, there are many people, at least on Hornets Twitter, that are telling you, okay, now the tank is fully on, baby. We don't have any big men. We're going to lose a lot of games. We're not going to be able to get off of the snide enough in
Well-
order to make the playoffs? I'm just telling you that's what people are out here saying. But I'm with you.
I would say to that, what I would say to that is hold your horses or hold your tanks, if you will. I don't think they're going to stop being competitive in some way. I don't think they're going to already start talking trades on some of these folks like Mann and others that would be attractive in the trade market. I think they're still going to try to be competitive. They're just going to do it with what they have, as opposed to if this were a legit playoff team, I think they'd be scouring the market for opportunities to upgrade center or whatever. I just don't think they're going to do that. Now, they could get healthy at some point. We don't, Mark Williams is not anywhere close to returning, but when he does return, then, and I think maybe he returns before Nick Richards now, and when he does return, the Hornets could turn it on and surprise folks. It's just, they're going to put themselves probably in a deeper hole than even the most realistic Hornets fans were thinking coming into the season.
Yeah, and look what they've been doing, right? It's not going to change their strategy from an offensive standpoint. They're still going to shoot 53s a game or whatever. And they've been really rebounding as a team. Obviously, it helps when you have Nick Richards out there. He's grabbing about 10 or 11 a game. So that's gone. But it's going to be a group effort now, right? You're going to lean on Josh Green a ton, Miles Bridges, Grant Williams, even from the guard position. Anybody out there is going to be asked to crash the boards, and maybe they try and do something defensively. I don't know. That's the biggest question for me is, like, what do you do now? Like, Nick was back there. You guys said it yesterday. Certainly would help if Mark was back there with the LaMelo stuff. But, it doesn't, to your point, Doug, it's not like they have to redraft the entire game plan for the season. They're offensively, they're still going to attack things. So to your point of probably not adding someone, unless you think that, like, they may give a Harry Giles a look just to get a body or something. I don't know. But I kind of agree with you. I think right now, maybe they're taking what the universe is giving them and just riding it out.
Well, the one strategy thing that I'll be interested to see if they do change. So they came into this season really crashing the offensive glass. And when you do that, you're going to give up something in transition. And the Hornets have definitely been doing that. There was a game before Nick Richards got injured that Nick Richards at halftime said, we didn't run back on the last 10 possessions. So I think they're going to have to run back, regardless of if they just change strategies, because it's going to be tougher to defend in the half court. So you've got to limit what teams are going to try to do to you in transition. But I wonder, too, if they'll stop crashing the glass as much just to send one more body back to help in transition, because that with some of these matchups, you're going to get driven on and there's not going to be much resistance at the rim.
A lot of threes, a lot of made threes early on, a lot of offensive rebounds. One of those things, it's going to go away. Not a lot of offensive rebounds anymore with Nick Richards out. Mark Williams coming back, that would certainly help because he was one of the best in the league when Steve Clifford was head coach, and there was an emphasis on attacking the glass offensively as well. But now with one of those things being gone for sure, because Grant Williams is not going to get over Beef Stew and Jalen Duren and get those rebounds as much, right? Moussa Diabate, as much as I love my guy, I love him. He has taken the void of my life. Yep, it was left by James Najee. Moussa filled that void, but I understand what that void is, and it's not something that can guard Beef Stew or Jalen Duren, or really, like, that's the Pistons, right? Now we're going to much bigger teams and better centers that we're going to be facing later on. So hopefully Mark Williams can come back sooner rather than later. Hopefully they can get some depth, but this is not a new issue. Maybe it is for Charles Lee, but it's not a new issue for us Hornets fans that have been dealing with this.
Welcome to
for
Charlotte,
quite some
Lee.
time. Yeah, still haunted? House still haunted, Doug? With the injury goes?
I mean, I don't know how you could think anything differently at this point. No, I don't know. They're trying. I mean, they're trying to clean things up.
We're all trying.
But a seance, a Ouija board. I don't know what's going to be necessary at this point to make it all go away. But it's still here.
I like that. We're trying. They're trying. We're all just trying. That's what we're doing today. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Bees everywhere!
We'll talk a little bit more about Charles Lee, speak of the head coach. The critiques that are surrounding him after LaMelo Ball goes to the bench, the visible frustration that we saw from Lee with LaMelo. Are the critiques on Charles Lee for real, and are they warranted? We'll get to that in just a moment here on Locked On Hornets. Before we do that, I want to tell you that this episode is brought to you by Hims. Your sex life is important, but your schedule is busy. You don't have the time to go to a doctor's office to get treated for ED. But through Hims, you can get a personalized ED treatment without stepping foot outside your door. Hims is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. Hims provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments like chewable hard mints and Viagra and Cialis and their generics for up to 95% cheaper. The process is 100% online, so there's no need for uncomfortable doctor's visits. Just answer a series of questions on their site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option. If prescribed, your medication ships directly to you in discreet packaging for free. No insurance is needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. With hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, Hims can help you find the ED option that works best for you. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That's HIMS, hims.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatment options. hims.com/lockedon. This product mentioned are chewable compounded products, which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. This episode is also brought to you by Built Rewards. Built Rewards, we appreciate them for helping us out here today and every single day. Listen up, renters. Ever feel like you're stuck in this loop of rent payments, just watching your money vanish into thin air? It's time to turn that rent game around and start earning some serious rewards. That's where Built Rewards comes in. Built is breaking ground as a neighborhood rewards program that hooks you up with your points on your rent. Every month, pay your rent and then watch the Built points roll in. Use points to jet off on a dream vacation. Put your points toward a flight or hotel stay with 500 plus airlines and 700,000 plus hotels and properties. You can also use your points to book fitness studio classes, redeem them toward a future rent payment, and they're designed to meet your lifestyle. Pay rent hassle-free throughout the Built Rewards app. Your rent game just got a major upgrade. Built points have been consistently ranked the highest value point currency by the Points Guy and Bankrate. Earn points by paying rent right now. When you go to joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNBA. That's JOINBILT. Joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNBA. Make sure to use our URL so they know that we sent you. Joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNBA to start earning points with your rent payments today. More Locked On Hornets ahead. I brought it up in the last episode that Charles Lee was getting critiqued again for bringing LaMelo out. LaMelo was out there. Hornets made a run to get back in the game. Goes to the bench. People were frustrated that he went to the bench. And then, of course, Minnesota started to separate themselves a little more. You mentioned going under on screens. I think LaMelo was I think Charles Lee was frustrated with a couple of guys. Maybe it was the Rockets game on some guys going under on screens. I don't think Charles Lee wants that to happen, but it still was happening with the defense, and there was some real problems, real issues with the way that Charles Lee was coaching, especially in this game against Minnesota, and it didn't take very long. Here we are, like 7 games into the season. And now the fan base.
What time is it?
Now I say the fan base, right? "Quote unquote" the fan base. I don't think the entire fan base is really going against Charles. In fact, it was a little divisive. Surprising, but it was a little divisive on whether Lee was the guy, whether he deserved any criticism. Doug, I'll start with you. Like, how real do you think it should be? Like, is it warranted that Charles Lee should be criticized for the way that he coached that matchup against the Timberwolves?
No, I don't think that it's fair. I think there will be a time and a place to evaluate Charles Lee's job. It is not 7 games into a season in which they have lost both of their centers, and the backup point guard they thought they had is now sitting the bench. Now, you could maybe have a critique there, like maybe they didn't give Vasa enough of a chance, but if you watched it at all in preseason, I mean, it was clear something is off with the guy. I don't know if he's out of shape. I don't know what's going on, but there seems to be frustration on both sides there. Vasa frustrated that he's not playing. You know, the Hornets frustrating that he's not playing well, or he didn't play well. So, I mean, maybe if you wanted to critique that, you could. But other than that, I mean, I think he's doing the best. This reminds me of the television show Chopped on Food Network. You guys familiar with this show?
Love it.
Chops?
Great show. Fantastic show. Yep.
So it's a cooking competition. They bring 3 chefs in and they give them a basket of ingredients, and they have to, these mystery ingredients, and they have to use these ingredients to make the dish. And it'll be like, you have to use apples, kale, and a bleeding pig heart. And so they make the dish, right? And everybody makes their dish, and then they go up and they hand it to these judges who are these like, super fancy chefs from super fancy restaurants. And they eat the food, and then one judge always goes, I love the apples and the kale. Wasn't a big fan of the pig heart. And it's like, you made me use the pig heart. I'm playing by the rules of your game, and you're going to judge the pig heart.
Well, especially when you're supposed to pronounce the taste profile of the pig heart. So like now, okay, I know they want to taste it. Let me find a way to make it taste okay, but you don't like it. But if I hide it, then you get mad at me for hiding it. Yes, I'm familiar with the show.
And so that exactly, and you're hitting on the analogy here. It's like Charles Lee is one of these chop chefs that he's sort of damned if he doesn't and damned if he does, because he's only, you can only judge him, I think, within the context of the ingredients that he has and the ingredients that he doesn't have. And I think that goes for the center position, where he was coming in here with a defensive mentality. And I think a lot of people are looking at the defensive numbers right now, which absolutely stink. I mean, the Hornets are not playing well defensively. And they're saying, what gives? And what gives is he expected to have Mark Williams, a really talented shot blocker and a guy that can chase guards out of the paint. He expected to have that player, and he doesn't. And he expected to have a single center, and he doesn't. And he's also got problems with his point guard and LaMelo Ball, the guy who's going to play the most minutes and is supposed to have the most impact, is turning over the basketball at an absurd rate, taking bad shots, and then fouling himself out of the game. So I just don't know how you can fairly criticize him when he has to play the pig heart. He has to use the pig heart.
Yeah, I mean, you can always criticize something, right? Especially when you're coming off of losses. You can pick out something that you didn't like or particularly want to see play out. But the bigger thing is, I mean, this ownership group and this front office, I can't imagine they're anywhere near a point of critiquing Charles Lee so far. And if they are, I imagine they're giving him 2 thumbs up, to be honest with you, because we've praised, the fight in this team. There have been, like, the defensive results have obviously not been ideal, to your point. But like, we've praised what this team has done. They've been in games they wouldn't have been in last year. They won a few that you think they wouldn't, but you always want to see more wins. No Brandon Miller, no Nick Richards now, no Mark Williams. So like, those are real things he's had to deal with. I don't think the ownership or the folks in the decision making business in that building are anywhere close to being out or even like disappointed in what Charles Lee has done so far.
David makes the good point here. Like, if they had gone to those 2 games, not gone to Boston, those were both in Charlotte, but if they had gone into those games and gotten shellacked in both of those and lost by 30, then I think, you might be a little bit fair to go, all right, is the team really, they kind of like, are they buying what he's selling here? Are they really kind of responding to it? But they have responded in terms of their fight. So, but these absurd, I see these comments in the YouTube, and please keep commenting. I love to read them. But some of these things about his rotation decisions, like, guys, these are great conversations to have when you have a certain level of talent and you have a certain level of available talent. And the Hornets just simply don't have that right now. And so I just don't see really the discussions about rotation decisions, rotation decisions, being all that relevant.
Well, no, the rotation now, that is a fantastic point. That's quite literally the question we're asking. What in the hell do you want him to do there? What do you want him to do there? Because you can ask for a different strategy, but guys, I promise you, Charles Lee did not want to start Taj Gibson in this game. I can promise you that. I don't think
Taj Gibson wanted
to start. Exactly. Taj didn't want to start in that game.
I think Taj knew. Me?
Yeah.
You want to start? Oh, okay. I promise you that did not happen on purpose. This happened because of some of the injuries. I promise you that it's not like he wants to put Salon out there for 22 minutes, and a lot of that was garbage time. I get it. Diabate, let's put this 2-way contract player give him significant minutes off of the bench too. The rotation
who, by the way,
stuff,
mad respect to Moussa Diabate, who is giving it 110%, but he is outclassed and outsized relative to the level of talent that they've had to play. Now, I think
inexperienced, right? It's two. Think about the ends of the spectrum that you have with Moussa Diabate and Taj Gibson. You have one of the oldest players in the league, and you have two-way contract player, inexperienced, who's rowdy. We love him for it, but we know what Diabate is. We know what Gibson is right now.
And a lot of times it's Diabate and Salon out there at the same time.
Yes, it is.
It's just like, those guys those are like the Hornets version of what were the two guys in Mighty Ducks called? Was it the Bash? It wasn't the Bash Brothers.
Bash
Brothers. Okay, yeah. They're not really bashing anything, but they're just going out there throwing their bodies around, just trying to get hands on loose balls, firing up a three every once in a while and just, fist pumping when it goes in. But that's what he's coming down to. They have gone into full, we put these personalities and these player types on this team for a reason. We didn't think we'd have to use them this early, but they're healthy bodies. So we got to throw these guys in there, see what they can do. It's a tough situation.
He's had a great attitude, Charles Lee. It seems like he's doing well communicating with players. He's holding players accountable. As we talked about in the last episode, he is displaying public displays of correction and being fair about it. It's not just the guys on the end of the bench. It goes all the way to the top. He's holding all the players accountable for their play and their responsibility to the team. And in this early stage of his head coaching career and the Charlotte Hornets season that is going to be more about player development and evaluation than playoff expectations, I think he's done everything you could ask for.
Let's move on. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Speed everywhere!
Against the Pistons. I flirted with the must-win thing here, David. So since you're back with me, maybe we can go back to this against Detroit. A preview against the Pistons, of course, the absence of a big man. They've got a couple over in Detroit, Cade Cunningham. What can we expect from a Detroit team now that the Hornets are back at home at the Spectrum Center tonight after going to Minnesota? We'll get to that in just a moment here on Locked On Hornets. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time Picks has a new feature called Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks. That wouldn't be smart if they had Game Time Picks featuring Game Time Picks. That makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets anymore. And we know about all the perks, all the benefits. Not only do they have Game Time Picks, which makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, and theater, but they have all-in pricing. Toggling this feature shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout, seat views, lowest price guarantee, and Game Time ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA. Locked On NBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
Game time.
More Locked On Hornets at. All right, preview against the Pistons. They play tonight at 7 o'clock at the Spectrum Center. 1.5-point favorites, the Hornets are. So barely. They are expected to win. Now, the Pistons are 3-5 so far this year. Not bad considering the records that they've been putting up. They lost the first 4 games of the season, but they're they've won 3 of their last 4. They beat the Lakers, the Nets, and the 76ers. They did lose big to the Knicks at home one time in that series. So we'll go with you first here, Doug. What kind of things are you watching for in this matchup?
I think, again, it's going to be about rebounding. I mean, it's going to be about physicality with Isaiah Stewart, with Jalen Duren, and taking some pride in the fact that you got housed last season by the Detroit Pistons. They swept the season series, and in a couple of the most recent losses to Detroit, LaMelo Ball fouled out of those games, so I would love if he didn't foul out of this one. And, I think this is going to be a physical battle down low. And it's going to take physicality across the board. I'm not just talking about Grant Williams and Diabate. I mean, everybody's going to have to hit somebody in this game and finish defensive possessions, give yourself a chance to win. because you can outshoot the Pistons. Like, this Hornets team is capable of coming into this game. If they shoot like they shot against Minnesota, they got no chance. They really don't have a chance against any team if they shoot like they shot against Minnesota. But you can outshoot this Pistons team, and you've got to focus on trying to take away, one of Cade Cunningham or Jaden Ivey. You can't go under on these screens. You got to fight hard, fight over, communicate, cut the pick and roll. High pick and roll decision making has been terrible lately. Cut that out. The Hornets can get this win.
Yeah, they're going to have to shoot the ball well, obviously. I mean, that's a given, I think, probably all season long, but certainly in this stretch when they have no real post presence. I mean, the shame about this is, and maybe it'll end up being so, but I mean, you really have a showdown between two of the young point guards, the star point guards in the league, in Cade Cunningham and LaMelo Ball. Maybe that sparks a little something in LaMelo. No, maybe he's coming off not so great showing against his draft mate in Anthony Edwards. Cade Cunningham is on the come up. And so I look for LaMelo to bounce back here at home. Brandon Miller, can he, get back into being the Brandon Miller that we saw in the preseason too, right? Been a little rusty, maybe still feeling the effects of that glute. So obviously you're going to need your two superstars to score points, and Trey Mann as well. But yeah, I mean, what they do down low, I don't know, guys. I mean, Duren, he just gobbles up the boards, in a normal game or when they are at full strength, and Beef Stew always gives them problems too. So got to come back and hopefully get some energy from the home crowd. Detroit has been playing pretty well. Like, they just beat the Lakers. They played well in that game. It wasn't just, the Lakers fumbling that thing away in Detroit. So it's going to be a battle. And I think you're right. The physicality portion of this, Doug, is huge across the board. Can they do that without fouling? Can they finally get some of these things cleaned up? We'll see.
And I'm just learning this. Did you guys know that the Hornets could have selected Jalen Duren, who is the center for the Detroit Pistons?
Actually, they did. I believe they did. Did they not?
Oh.
They did select him. They
you know
him
what?
away.
You know what? I'm double checking. You're actually right. They did select him, and they didn't.
I will say he doesn't have like the highest approval rating in the world. He's healthier. No. He is healthier than the center they ended up going with.
He's a living, breathing, warm-blooded body that they can put out on the floor that gets rebounds. So
you bring this up. It's the second time, I believe, maybe even more than that, but we're denied again a Mark Williams, Jalen Duren matchup. Which would have been fun to see. No, if Mark's going to get hurt. I will say that when I look at the Pistons and what they've been doing here, I match it up with what they did this offseason, to which they were much criticized. Tobias Harris got a big contract. It was surprising. Tim Hardaway Jr. is now on their team. A lot of people frowned upon those moves, and I get it. They should have. It does feel like B-level Rockets stuff in what Houston did last year, where they just surround their young talent with overpaid vets, but also probably in some better spots with a backcourt that looks to be playing pretty well. Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey. You have a guy that is rebounding at least with Jalen Duren. You go to the bench. Okay, here's Malik Beasley, your classic 3-and-D glue guy on some of these contenders that eventually falls out of the rotation on the top contenders, but on some of these teams that look to get in the play-in, you know what? Looks pretty good coming off of the bench. Big man depth, what? Beef stew? Like, it just feels like this is a Detroit team that this is the time for them to make that jump and to play in contention. And much like the Rockets, they're not as good as what Houston did, but they're going to finish in a very similar position because the Eastern Conference is just so much weaker than what the Western Conference was. So if we wanted to talk about the Atlanta game, we wanted to talk about the Toronto game, as teams the Hornets are going to be competing in for play-in spots at the end of the year, Detroit, to me, is going to be another one of those squads because of the way that they operated despite being much maligned. It feels to be paying off for what they're hoping to do and just taking that next step.
Well, and be sure that when the Hornets are ready to actually compete, they're going to have to do the same thing, and they will all also be much maligned. And it's really just going to come down to if the bets work out. So far, so good on the Tobias Harris bet. Like, he's playing well. Will it mean they get to the postseason? We'll see. We always talk about the Pistons like every year doing this, and they don't. Same thing with the Rockets. Like, we don't know if that's necessarily going to pay off. But you eventually have to come to a point as an organization where you say, all right, we've developed the young players. We know what they are. We've kept the ones we want to keep, and we've gotten rid of the ones we want to get rid of, which I think the Hornets are in that process now. And then eventually you do have to make the bets. And so that'll be interesting to see. But going back to this game, one thing that I'd love to see is LaMelo Ball get others involved, like start the game off getting others involved, because we've made a lot of his turnovers, which have been like near bottom of the league bad. But his assist percentage is also in the 48th percentile, according to Cleaning the Glass. So it's about average. But he has not been an average assist percentage player his entire career. He's been like well above average. I think he's pressing right now offensively. I think he's feeling the heat probably of Brandon Miller being out, but Brandon Miller's back now. Need a big performance from him. Need LaMelo Ball to be focused on getting other people involved. And I do have hope. I do have hope for this game. I think they can win this game. We'll see.
Well, look, they shoot about 10 more threes than do the Pistons per game. Pistons only shoot 35. Come on, guys, 35 threes a game. What are you doing? This is 2024.
They haven't gotten the memo yet.
There. Yeah. And you mentioned Tobias Harris real quick. I guffaw at him, but I believe he is on the Hall of Fame Hornets killers traditionally. So watch
him
out
and
for
Luke
him.
Cornett.
Yeah, exactly. So this
Cornet.
is not.
Why did I go Cornet? I went Cornet there for some reason.
Not sure why.
All-time Hornets.
Like a corn nut. I don't know.
I don't want to put this in the same category though, Walker. You and I last week went out on a limb, stamped the Raptors game a must win, and they got it. So if that's what they need, I'll do it. I'll do it again.
Are you ready to? Are you going to do it? You're going to do it?
Please do it.
Do the stamp. Let's see. Here, I'm going to go. Hold on. I'm going to cut in close to you, and I want to see the stamp. Must win stamp. Do it.
We're going to go. Hold on.
Oh, come on.
Okay,
I need the stamp.
Okay. Yeah. We're going to stamp it. Must win.
Must win.
You're welcome. The next couple games at Cleveland, they don't lose. Versus the Suns, that is hard. At the Lakers, that doesn't sound fun. At the Clippers, also not good. Got to win this one tonight. Got to get this one.
Must win.
Got to do it.
Proud of you.
Fantastic. All right. Yeah. Last thing, just to give you a key here, I will say that the backcourt for Detroit, they've been fun and good. Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey. I think if you're a Pistons fan, it's been a while on Cade, but you're starting to like some of the return that you're getting. I will say Josh Green and LaMelo and Brandon, that's just a big kind of backcourt, that you're dealing with in that 1 through kind of 2, 3 hybrid Cody Martin. Can you just wreak some havoc on those guys and make them feel uncomfortable enough to make Tobias and Tim Hardaway and these other guys beat you, right? And I'm sure they can hit some shots, but can you make them the stars and not just like the vet role players and limit with some size and some tenacity? I really like what Green does for this squad. Brandon Miller, is he getting back in a rhythm? When do we see him finally?
He has to. Someone has to. That's what I'm saying. Someone's got. It's got to be Brandon or Miles or Josh Green. Somebody has to have a 20-point game that's not named LaMelo Ball or Trey Mann.
Yeah, we'll see if they can do it. All right, that'll do it for Locked On Hornets. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free. We're available anywhere you get your pods, and that does include YouTube. There's David Walker. Find him on Twitter, and he's also a part of every Hornets box score.com, featured on Midnight Snacks. Midnight Snacks, a great little video snippet, usually recapping the game that just happened. Find him on Twitter again, David B. Walker. Doug Branson, everyhornetsboxscore.com, subtext. Also check him out on Locked On NBA. He's doing a bunch of stuff. And I'm Walker Mail. Listen to me, WFNZ, every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow.